Stewart. Here. Director Alfred Wallace. Here. Director Greg Wood. Here. 401 absent. Webb.
Would you rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and those on the phone just listen. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Public comments. Open the floor to public comments. If you're out there and have something you want to say.
Approval of the agenda first.
Oh, any additions to the agenda? Hope there are no additions. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Director Stewart.
Second.
Second, Director Wood.
Roll call vote.
President Rick Webb. Vice President Byron Glidden.
Yes.
Director Ben Stewart. Yes. Director Alfred Wallace. Yes. Director Greg Wood. Yes. 4-0. 1 absent.
Now we'll open for public comment. Anybody out there who wants to hear you? Now,
This is Colin Snitchler. I'm representing Hydro Store. I was with you guys last week, so I just wanted you to know that I'm listening to the call.
And the name again?
This is Colin Snitchler. I was the curly-haired guy.
Yeah. Colin, can you spell your last name for the record?
Yeah, it's S-N as in Nicholas, I-T-C-H-L-E-R.
Thank you.
Thank you.
any other public comment? As a member of the public, I'm going to make a comment. Keeping government close to people is the key to effective, efficient government by the citizens, not the politicians of the country, state, or federal government. Parents, as taxpayers, are closer to the community about specific issues. Local control allows the voice of the people to be heard and the opportunity to become involved and participate. The voting turnout yesterday was disappointing, period. Ignorance and apathy are the two killers of community involvement. Ignorance and apathy are the two killers of community involvement. The vote turnout yesterday in Roseman was very disappointing. Any other public comment? Voluntary roll call. John Joyce, are you out there?
Yes, sir, I am. And I would like to congratulate Wood and Stewart. It looks like they're going to be holding their seat.
Well, thank you. Thank you, John.
They're actually sitting down, John. Anything else in your world, John?
No, the casting of the ballots was very disappointing. I think when you were elected, Byron, you got over 2,000 votes.
Yeah, 3,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, but that's a presidential election, which is different.
True.
All right, anybody else out there that'd like to make us aware that you're out there listening?
Yeah, Tien with Kennedy Jenks.
Thank you. All right, can I have a motion to approve the minutes M1 and M2?
So moved.
Motion by Stewart. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Wood. Roll call.
President Rick Webb. Vice President Byron Glidden.
Yes.
Director Stewart.
Yes.
Director Wallace.
Yes.
Director Wood.
Yes.
4-0. 4-0, one absent. Webb.
And I have a motion for the consent calendar C1, 2, 3, and 4.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Motion by, did you get them both? Yeah. Roll call vote?
President Rick Webb. Vice President Byron Glennon.
Yes.
Director Stewart.
Yes.
Director Wallace.
Yes.
Director Wood. Yes. 4-0, one absent. Webb.
Moving on to new business 1. The board will reconsider the governor's proclamation state of emergency regarding COVID-19. Determine whether the state of emergency continues to impact the ability of the members to meet safely in person. General Manager.
Yes, due to the governor extending the emergency, once again, the state of emergency continues to directly impact the ability of the members to meet safely in person, and state and local officials continue to require us to have safety precautions and masks in various places.
I have a motion for NB1.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Roll call vote.
In regard to the motion and the second, it would be proper to the maker of the motion. If you don't mind, I'll read a portion for you. Okay, would agree. As a result of the governor's proclaimed state of emergency, meeting in person continues to impact the ability of the members to meet safely in person. Therefore, you would move that the Roseman Community Service District continue to meet via teleconference under AB 361's modified requirements on the basis that a state of emergency continues to directly impact the ability of the members to meet safely in person. And I might point out before you take the vote that these are going to change as of the first of the year. So
I will amend my motion to accept the inserting of what our general manager just put down as far as the...
And I had Stewart as the maker of the motion. Was that not correct?
No, I think you beat me to it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Roll call vote.
President Rick Webb. Vice President Byron Glennon.
Yes.
Director Stewart.
Yes.
Director Wallace.
Yes.
Director Wood.
Yes.
4-0. One absent. Webb.
NB2, dump station token issues.
Did not have MB1?
That was NB1.
Oh, that was. I'm sorry.
Dump station token issue. There's a customer who's going to speak to the board, and then the general manager will speak. Is the customer going to speak first, or?
No, I will.
Okay.
What we have is a problem at the wastewater treatment plant. It's our grid station. It was built in the size to accept the original flows prior to the building of the new plant. And as a result, the entire flow can't be directed through, and it has to be bypassed out to our emergency overflow pond. And then in the evenings, Ryan will move that into and through the system. With that, we had met with our presenters today, and that's Eric Tobin here on my left, who will be doing a slide presentation and giving you a presentation on that, and Brian Villacorta, the experts in this type of environment. And so we're going to let them give you a more in-depth presentation on it. But they're going to suggest that we prepare for a fine grid station to be considered in our next CIP budget. And the new station will be designed. They've been out there and looked at what we have, and we'll continue to look at it, to have it designed to handle our entire flow and up to about 4,000 gallons per minute. And I've got my bullet points here, but I think it might be more proper for Eric and Brian to do the presentation and explain exactly what the fine grit and the greater size grit will do to our system, and how the system designed properly will aid in saving us money. Although it'll have an initial cost, it'll save us in the long run down the road in maintenance and motor repairs and quality of our effluent in the process. So with that, I will step off of that, and what I was supposed to actually address at this stage was the dump station tokens issue. We have a dump station out here, and the tokens that people use for the dump station are not working. I've been on Sanastar to come out to upgrade that station. And if the board will recall, some time back, the board had agreed to allow current customers of our system to have free access to that dump station, but they still have to have a coin in order to open up the lid. So that's been a problem for some of the residents, and one of the residents wanted to make comments to that effect, but I want them to know, if they're listening, that we are working to get that repaired and to find a way to allow them to be able to use that. Because not only does the local community use it, but a lot of people, transient folks, use it also. So we still have to have a mechanism to control the use. And as soon as I can get that repaired by Sanastar, hopefully we'll have a way to address it for the community. One of the things that there is a cost to us, and it's significant, are the tokens. The tokens are of brass quality, and they cost us significantly, and they don't all come back. So we lose them quite often. People, in some cases, hoard them, and we have to buy more. So it's all of a circle of trying to get it worked out, and I think maybe the answer to this would be to issue every resident that would like one an access card that would do the same thing as a token, and they could carry that card and use it at whenever they wish. So just to let the people know, we'll be working to resolve that problem as soon as possible.
We clearly wanted our customers to have free access to that, and we want to deny access to those people just traveling through without them paying to dump there. That was our whole goal with that.
Right.
Would the access card work out better? Can we get the company to accept an access card?
Yeah, they got a ton of different types of readers. In fact, they want us to go to some sort of card in order to update our system, and they just haven't come out yet. And I've been on the phone with them, and hopefully, and COVID's been part of their problem of responding timely, and but we're still working on it. Hopefully, we can upgrade it to something that will work.
So I do agree. I think an access card would be the best way to go. I feel like what Byron said is correct, is that, anybody living here, they already pay their sewer fee every month, and so they paid into the sewer system. So to dump their RV into the sewer system that they're already paying for, there shouldn't be any more money coming out of their pocket to do it. And then, but somebody coming in here and they're traveling back to LA and they want to dump, before they head over the mountain, okay, fine. Let them pay the maybe get rid of the coin system altogether and just do it with a, they got to use a credit card or whatever and pay for it that way and then be done with it.
I think that's what we'd do. We'd have a card for the residents that they would carry, and which is cheaper than the tokens, and then everybody else could use a credit card.
I've got a question. When I first moved here to Roseman, over 30 years ago, Chevron used to have a RV dump station right here.
Chevron still does. It's shut off.
And so I was wondering why, because somebody's always there, maybe working something out with them because they can charge for anybody coming to use it, because somebody there is 24 hours a day that they can monitor it.
Well, they had to go out and unlock and lock it because it wasn't automated, number one. And that, I think, was a problem for them. It became a hassle, and they shut it all down, blocked it off.
Oh, okay.
There's only one person there.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. And that's all I have for that.
I wonder if there's a system out there that you can scan, like they put their driver's license, we've got the barcode on the back of it, and it just looks at the address, and if that address is in our jurisdiction or they are a user, that it would unlock or something like that. It doesn't seem too far-fetched in this day and age. I just don't know.
Technology, I think, could do it to some effect like that.
Just
but
finding that and being able to bring it here would be the problem.
Actually, that second MB2 should be MB2B or A. But I have no further on the first one.
Now we're going to NB2B.
As you're aware, annually we run into the holidays at this time of year. The November is Thanksgiving, and it impedes our ability to hold two meetings timely. And basically, we'll be requesting that the November 23rd meeting be canceled, and we'll just have this meeting this month, unless there is an emergency or some other effect that needs to be addressed prior to, but not during the holiday. And that, if you recall, we do every year.
I get a motion for NB2.
B.
So moved. Second.
Roll call vote.
President Webb? Vice President Glennon?
Yes.
Director Stewart? Yes. Director Wallace?
Yes.
Director Wood?
Yes.
4-0, one absent. Webb.
The meeting on the 23rd has been canceled. NB3, move the date of the December regular meeting from the 14th to the 7th. Move it up a week.
Yes, I'm requesting this because of the lengthy timeline between now and our next regular meeting, and to effectively swear in the new board and potentially introduce the new GM.
See, on that one there, I found out today that the election won't be certified until December 9th. That's a Friday. So, 7th, we wouldn't be able to swear in the new board anyhow, because the election won't be certified until the 9th.
Well, then that's a moot point. And I normally the county would certify by the 21st, I believe, of November. They've never gone that long.
I mean, it's possible it could be certified, but, it's the same thing comes into being that, I see your point on it, but unless we know for sure it's going to be then we would have to have the new board members wouldn't be sworn in until sometime in January, because we'll be probably canceling our late December meeting as well.
You will be.
3rd Battalion, 41st Infantry, and the 2nd Armored Division, along with 2nd Marine Division. Sir, that is one resume. Thank you. In Desert Storm, you served as the Chief of Patient Administration at Veteran Army Hospital, Presidio, San Francisco. Since 2019, Captain Wallace has been the commander of the California Cadet Corps at the Rosemont High Early College campus. We thank you for all you do, sir, and they look amazing behind. Here they come. Rosemont High School Color Guard.
Whoop, whoop, Coach Wallace, whoop, whoop.
I think it actually would be good to move it to the first Wednesday, because there's 3 weeks between this meeting and that, and there will probably be some issues that need to be handled anyway. And we could have a special meeting to do the swearing in and whatever.
You're still technically the board now, and nothing changed, so you still have the authority, right, to carry on business. So we can carry on the business. We just have to do the swearing in of the board officially after that.
Well, then why don't we go ahead and, like I agree with what Byron is saying, is moving it to December 7th, and that'll take up some of the slack. And I'm sure we'll be having meetings in regard to new GM replacement too between now, probably several meetings. But yeah, because we can always schedule a special meeting.
Yeah, I think it's 7th. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to move it back to the first Wednesday, and there would be less time between now and that meeting.
And that would be December 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we can go ahead and we can still schedule for that Friday or whatever. We can have a special board meeting for swearing.
And if the county does certify, we can do the swearing in at that time.
Yeah, that's fine.
So do I have a motion to move the December 14th meeting to December 7th? A second. Second. Sure. Roll call vote.
President Webb.
Director Webb, yes.
So you're the president. Vice President Glennon.
Yes.
Director Stewart.
Yes.
Director Wallace.
Yes.
Director Wood.
Yes.
5-0.
Hello there, Foggy. How do you sound?
Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
10B5, approval of closure of the district office of December the 27th, 2022 through December 29th, 2022.
You know what, and this one, again, is one we do each year. We go dark the week after the Christmas. We give the employees the ability to take off that week on their own time. They aren't given time to take off, but it's a time to celebrate with their families and be with them, and we recognize that. We do have a skeleton crew that will be working in the event that there's issues. Will be available, and call-outs, we would call out somebody if necessary.
Steve, I got a question. You know, we do this every year. We go dark for that period of time. Is there a way that you could bring a resolution to the board to where it just makes it a permanent thing, to where it's like, okay, this is set in stone.
Yeah.
We're shut down for this period of time, and then it's done.
Yeah.
And then as staff, you can always come back and say, hey, you know what? I can't let anybody off this time because we got too many things going on, but at least that way you've got the authorization to do it if it's feasible.
And because we do bring it every year back to the board.
Yeah.
I noticed in here, the second.
You got a question?
second meeting of December, I didn't put on here to take that, will be closed for that meeting also.
Hey, Steve, question for you in regards to that. Does that create, I know, like I said, Greg said, just bring a resolution forward on it, but does that create any issue with the union side of this about, because are we forcing the people to take the time off, or is it just an option to take the time off?
It's an option, and the union supports it. Because it's an option, they have no problem with it.
You know, I was just curious because, you know, we moved to the November meeting, and, you know, because we are going through a transition with the new GM, and Steve, you're going to be going on vacation sometime in December and things of this nature, and, you know, we still have business to take care of that maybe you could bring back at the next board meeting an agenda item to maybe for December to move our meeting just for the month of December this year to the first and third Wednesday of the month. And that way it doesn't interfere with Christmas, but we're still able to take care of business and to help with the transition, you know, during that period as well.
Good idea.
I have a motion for NB5.
So moved.
Second, Director Stewart.
Roll call
President Webb,
Yes.
Vice President Glennon,
Yes.
Director Stewart,
Yes.
Director Wallace,
Yes.
Director Wood.
Yes.
5-0.
vote. Presentations, PR1, Water Reclamation Plant Project Update. Ryan.
Good evening, everybody. I'll keep my presentation short, as we have a great presentation for you tonight. Since last we spoke, the Water Reclamation Plant has been working on the finishing touches of our new water reclamation plant, and specifically in the aspect of the automated system to deliver dissolved oxygen to the bioax systems. We should have the finishing parts showing up, ordered within the next week or the end of next. As far as process control, our biology is growing wonderfully. Not too many months ago, we started at 0, and we're currently up to 2,900 to 3,000 MLSS. And our target is to operate originally between 3,500 and 4,000 MLS, depending on winter or summer months. That has now changed, and we have addressed and readjusted. We will try to operate between 3,000 and 33, as that's what the organisms with our current large size of our basins are operating efficiently at. Nitrate started at 36 when we first started. They're down to a 12. This is being done in a manual function that's being done with great care by the operators and raising and lowering the blowers constantly multiple times throughout the day and night. Once this function is corrected and the blowers are all able to run in the auto function, it will relieve a lot of stress from not only the operators, but we will be able to remove almost all traces of nitrates from the water. That is the only thing holding us back from meeting our state regulation. With that, I'll give it back over to Mr. Prez and the board. Unless there's any questions, that's all I have for you gentlemen tonight.
Anyone have a question?
Nope.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Ryan. PR2, presentation of Hydro International Water and Wastewater Solutions. Eric Coburn.
And I've already done the introductions of Eric and Brian Villacorta, and they are subject experts in the grit discussion that I improperly briefed you on earlier.
academic question for each one of you. Tell me how you got into this this line of work.
Into wastewater or into grid removal? Because there are we specific?
Yeah.
So how I got into wastewater, actually, I graduated college and I was looking for a job, and there's actually there was a large wastewater pump manufacturer in Salt Lake City, Wemco Pumps. There's a few of them at the plant. I applied for the job out there because I was a pump mechanic at the time and a degreed mechanical engineer. I easily got the job, and that launched me into wastewater. Wemco has since left Salt Lake City and moved to Fresno. I didn't want to make the move over to Fresno and saw that something was coming up in the business. So at that point I left, took a brief interim outside wastewater, and realized that the wastewater community is a very tightly knit community. There's a very nice group of people that want to do the right thing. And I have this innate sense that I always want to do what's best for the community and for the group as a whole. So I got back into wastewater through Hydro International. Actually, when I was at Wemco, we supplied pumps for Hydro. Very familiar with their equipment, and got into there as their regional manager covering the Western United States.
And
yes. Thank you, directors. My name is Brian Villacorta. And I've been in the business for about 25 years. I went to school for environmental engineering. I'm a licensed professional engineer with the state of California. I'm also a board certified environmental engineer, focusing on water supply and wastewater. So I ended up finishing school, and I got a job at Los Angeles County Sanitation District, where I worked in operation setting of wastewater treatment facilities for almost 20 years. And then I did a career jump and left public sector to go into private equipment technology solutions. And as part of my solution lineup, we work on grid systems, but we also work on the biological treatment systems that you currently have in operation at Rosemont. All the process that's required to provide safe and reliable water and finished product.
I came out of education at the high school level, and a career in sewer, just people never even give it a thought. And Ryan, you're really good in education, and I wondered if you thought about that when you were a senior.
I did not. I was lucky enough that when I was young, I was employed here when I was 21, and my mother called me on the phone and saw in the newspaper that Roseman was hiring. And at that point, that was my start. And I put about 7-8 years on the water side. I had an opportunity to move to the wastewater, and I took it and ran with it.
Yeah, it is a career, and I don't think most young men and women even give it a thought as a career. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The color of money is brown.
Ready?
Okay. So, as was previously mentioned, we're going to talk about the grid system. I was asked to come here as the subject expert on grid. Hydro International, it's all we do. We learn about grid, we figure out how it works. My plan is to give you the board a little bit of an idea of what really is grid, what are we trying to do, what are we trying to remove, how do we do it with the current extent of what the plant has available. Do you want me to use the microphone? Okay. So what does the plant have available? So what is grid? Right? Grid, there's a definition. If anybody has taken an environmental engineering or any sort of wastewater classes, there's a definition by Metcalf and Eddy. Metcalf and Eddy is the author of the wastewater textbook. The definition says that it is sand, gravel, cinders, seeds, non-putrescible, organic items. It's a large amount of items. Basically, it's your large, heavy items that sink to the bottom and slowly build up everything. If anybody on the board would like a copy of this presentation, I have to give it to you afterward also. So what does it do? It just simply settles down and starts to fill up. Is it just grit? Not necessarily, right? Grit has that important. If you look down on the right-hand side, a standard piece of grit has a specific gravity of 2.65, weighs 2.65 times more than what water does. Well, the average grit throughout systems is found to be between about 1.2 to 1.6 specific gravity. What does that mean? That means that rather than a piece of grit taking 1 minute, taking 38 seconds to settle 1 foot, instead of taking that 38 seconds, a piece of grit at specific gravity of 1.35, the average number, takes 2 minutes and 48 seconds to settle, which is an important piece to know because if you try to capture something that you think is going to settle a foot in 38 seconds, but it's taking over 2 minutes, there's no way it's going to ever be captured. Part of that is because of specific gravity. Part of that is also because of the shape. There on the bottom left-hand corner are a few pictures of actual wastewater grit, taken through a high-speed camera as it falls through an acrylic column. You can actually see the top line there is silica sand. That's the true definition of what grit is according to the textbook. The bottom line there is wastewater grit. None of it is beautiful, round, smooth, and shiny. All of it has some extra something attached to it. Right? That's your fats, your oils, your greases, your soaps, your surfactants. Everything that attaches to it, and as it attaches to it, it makes it settle slower. Therefore, here's a beautiful video. Sorry, the folks that are online can't see this, but this is a beautiful video that our engineers did, along with Garver Engineering out of Arkansas. They captured some clean sand that is pure per definition grit. On the right-hand side, you see it settling very quickly. The left-hand side is actual wastewater grit captured from the local wastewater treatment plant up there in Massachusetts. You can see how it settles extremely slowly. We like to analyze this to snow falling versus rain falling. So this isn't just theoretical. This isn't just book learning. This is actually applied science as you see it here as it falls. Why does that matter? Because it settles slower is one of the pieces. The other piece that matters quite importantly too is, and why this all matters is because if you simply size for the standard textbook grit, but not how quickly it settles, you're not going to capture all the grit that comes into the system, right? Standard conventional, similar to the system that is currently installed at the Roseman plant, is sized to capture 300 micron pieces of grit. According to the chart here, which this chart is gathered from 450 individual tests throughout the western region. If you look at this, if you simply size according to 300 micron grit, you'll pass 75% of all grit through the system. It simply won't be captured because of the settling velocities of it. Instead, what we found the best way to do this is simply we want to capture 100 micron and smaller grit. If you simply capture 100 micron grit, 100 micron and larger grit, you'll only pass 10%, 11% of all grit through the system, capturing nearly 90% of everything. A lot of people wonder, what does 100 micron mean? Most people have never seen it. I actually brought a sample along of not wastewater grit, just silica sand, but this is 75 to 100 micron sand. If you stand up on this end, you won't be able to see it very well. Turn it sideways and roll it around. Pass that around for the board to be able to see. And you can see that it's extremely small pieces of sand, one piece of grit that are inside there. That's the size of grit. If you capture that, you'll capture 90+% of everything coming through the system. And so how much grit is actually in wastewater, right? This is beautiful information to know. How much actually is in it? We're going to go back again to Metcalf and Eddy. As we look at Metcalf and Eddy, we see, okay, how much is in there? There's a bunch of beautiful numbers. I don't care whether you speak in milligrams per liter or pounds per million gallons, whatever it is. There's a bunch of beautiful numbers here. The number that I like to use, because it's a number that everybody can visualize, is per million gallons coming into the wastewater treatment plant, there's about 5.7 gallons average grit coming in, which means basically every million gallons that comes into the plant, on a normal average day, you get about a bucket to a bucket and a half of grit. 5-gallon bucket, everybody has a 5-gallon bucket somewhere at their home. There's that much grit coming into the plant. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. As that comes through, with 1.3 million gallons per day average daily flows at Roseman, that's
capacity, or 850 gallons per minute. That's the actual flow coming into the plant. That means you get about 14 cubic yards of grit per year coming into the plant, just on your normal, everyday loads coming in. But that doesn't account for what happens when it rains or when you clean the line. Because somebody goes out and jets the lines, or else they slowly fill up. When it rains, you get a lot of water that comes in too. What that means is that everything that's been settled out inside the collection system suddenly is resuspended and pushed through. The majority of what settles out at the bottom of the pipes of your collection system is grit, and it's going to make its way through to the plant either when it's cleaned or when it rains. When it goes through there, because of the flow rate, the flow differential between average flows and your potential emergency peak flows, there's a huge difference of how much grit can come in. There's beautiful charts for this also. I didn't put all the charts in there. I didn't want to bore the board to sleep. Right? It's not nap time yet. But the chart, the information shows the peaking factor that comes through here. You'll see roughly 50 times more grit come in during a cleaning or during an emergency service, which means instead of a bucket load of grit, you get roughly a truckload of grit per million gallons. So 1.25 to 2 yards of grit. The back of a 6-foot long pickup bed, when you fill it dome full, is about 1.5 yards of grit. Right? If anybody has a 6-foot bed pickup, well, you realize how much grit is coming in. That much per million gallons coming into the plant. Which means, let's assume there's an emergency event, right? Whatever it is, the rains come, everything is cleaned out, whatever it is that triggers that emergency event where all the pumps kick on. All of a sudden, when all the pumps kick on, you get 1 million gallons of water coming in extremely quickly. You can fill half that same 15-yard dumpster that we were filling in a year. You can get about 8+ yards of grit per emergency event that's able to come in. So when we look at that, everything needs to be able to size to be able to handle that, or that grit that comes in is simply going to work its way through, and it's going to work its way into whatever the next portion is. It's going to come into your diffusers, it's going to come into your activated sludge. Okay? If we look at the efficiency of a grit removal system, is one piece we'll touch on very quickly. Efficiencies of grit removal systems are important. I showed you that earlier that a 300 micron, a system size for 300 micron will pass 75% of all grit, will capture 25%. If you look at the next size down at 212 micron, these are just based on standard mesh sizes. A system size for 212 micron will move about 50% of all grit coming into the system. If a system is sized to remove 50% of all grit coming into the system, that means that roughly everything beyond the grit system will fill up at a rate of approximately 1 foot per year of grit. Average numbers based on typical plant sizes, roughly you're going to build up about 1 foot of grit per year in your activated sludge base. It's going to fill up towards your diffusers, and it's going to start to get up to the top of the diffusers. You never want to bury a diffuser because your blowers that you have in will have to be ramped up to be able to counteract that additional pressure that the grit's putting onto it. Not only that, but your bubbles, as they work their way through the grit, become larger. As they become larger, your surface area is smaller. Your surface area is smaller, which means there's less dissolved oxygen coming through your bugs, which means you have to ramp up your blowers higher, which means extra energy usage for the plant. We want to make sure that instead of that, let's say we'll size a grit system to be able to for 50% efficiency. It's better to size it for 90% efficiency plus, because at that point, suddenly instead of to fill up with a foot of grit, it was 2 to 3 years. Instead of 2 to 3 years to fill up with a foot of grit, it's placed in. Or it can be cast in place. We don't want to talk about stainless steel ones, they're too expensive. I know I'm the expert in grit, I'm also the sales manager, but I'm very conscious of cost. So let's make sure we make it, whatever we choose, we're going to pick the least expensive cost, and the precast manhole is your by far less expensive option. 300 micron of larger grit, even at emergency flows, which means that this will not only hydraulically pass everything that comes into the plant currently, but will capture that same 300 micron grit. We don't want to capture 100 micron grit inside the Grit King and then move this to the classifier. So we'll replace the classifier also. That is a gravity-fed unit, which means there is no more pump. You'll be able to get rid of a 7.5 horsepower motor in your pump. You'll be able to get rid of a 0.5 horsepower mixer motor inside the grit chamber and simply run it by the opening and closing of the discharge valve on the bottom of the Grit King. Okay? Oh, I should have looked over there. Gravity-fed unit. Everything should fit inside the existing footprint. In fact, the classifier should even exist to the existing cement pads that are poured on top of that slab up there. Okay? A proposal has been put together and made available. We'll get that over to Brad and get that over to the responsible parties. That is the end of my presentation. Does the board have any questions? I made it very quick and simple.
You've probably done this already on your own, Ryan, but are there some specific questions that you could ask that you know we as board members need to know about this?
So I've already met with the gentleman and spoke to him. Before I ask any questions, I'd like to point out two critical factors. One, currently our existing grit removal system is simply just not capable hydraulically of doing what it needs. It is just not simply, it will not handle the flame. If we ever have an emergency event, it will overflow. We have experienced it. As far as the removal capability, we're pushing on average 850 GPM and need to be capable of pushing 1,200 in an emergency, 2,200 gallons per minute. Our current grit removal system is only capable of removing 500 GPM on average and 700 GPM at peak flow. Normal operation of our grit removal system hydraulically just will not cut it. The second thing is if any of you were unfortunate enough 2 years ago when we took NB1 offline, I know Mr. Perez saw it, we had to clean that basin. We removed 4 cubic yards by hand shoveling. It did not even make a dent in that facility. You could not even tell we removed anything. Number 2, the liner material is of such that you have 2 options to remove it. Get inside, hand shovel it, or use a suck truck as we have to suck it out. There's so much in there that we don't pay. You have a third option. Wash it back to our headworks to go through our pumps and damage our pumps. Due to being in there shoveling, we did cause holes to be in the liner. Thus, the liner was removed and replaced. So that's a critical factor when we do. I'd much rather clean it 8 to 10 years than 2 to 3, because the fact of maintenance and removing it could cost the district substantially. Those are the 2 critical factors I would like to point out. As questions I have for the gentleman. First off, it came down to cost and a return factor. Where is this going to save us? And as Eric pointed out, it will save in maintenance, number 1. Removal and new installation of liner. It will also benefit your downstream processes. It will save you on energy consumption. So that was an important question I like to ask. The second was ease of operation. What is the maintenance on the unit? As Eric stated, as far as their pumps, motors, what is the maintenance on the unit?
Well, the maintenance on the Grit King is a simple visual inspection, and if anything is found to be floating inside, simply remove it. And now, this is wastewater, so things get into the stream that you never would expect, such as entire mop heads that consume the metal product. If something is found inside there, such as that, there is a channel through the center of the Grit King. It can be drained, and something can be, you can either use a hook to pull it out, or if it's bigger than that, you can pull it, put it back and stuff in there. Hopefully that never happens. If it does, it's because of some large upset up here. That's the only maintenance for the Grit King itself. The classifier, the spiral classifier, standard grease the motor, grease the bearings every 3 months, I believe it's recommended. And then
then a standard inspection is expected for that also. There's hatches on the top where you can open them up and look down inside. We suggest inspecting it once a month and look at it. Very, very little maintenance on both of these equipment. Everything is designed to be as hands-off and maintenance-free as possible.
So what I see from this is that this will replace our existing grid system.
Correct.
And so my question is, number one, our existing grid system is not efficient. And it is causing an overload of grit in our biolac, which is not really designed for people to be in there with shovels and wheelbarrows, cleaning it out at any time. And on our existing grid system, Ryan, what is the maintenance schedule on that?
We are monthly. The plant, besides the greasing and oil changes, the oil and hydraulic fluid is to be changed every 6 months. It takes roughly 2.5 gallons of hydraulic fluid. Besides that, monthly, the system, the input to the treatment plant is to be stopped for, it takes us about 2 hours. We have the gentleman from the water side bring out the suck truck. We drain the unit. We go down inside, and there's a suction tube that's only a 3-inch tube that comes out of the bottom of that. And that has to be cleaned, inspected, and there's a hatch inside that has to be inspected. It is a stainless steel hatch, and we replace that about once a year, but debris gets caught within inside the hatch, and it keeps the valve from closing all the way. The other thing we do is it has to be jetted periodically. The maintenance is pretty extensive, and the unit was put in service in 2007. The motor up top, the seals and everything wore out. It does leak oil. It served its purpose.
So you're saying that the grit removal, the effluent, is a 3-inch outlet, and we're running it better than 1 million MPD. And so, but what I'm saying is, we're creating a lot of grit, and you're trying to push it through a 3-inch tube, which is ridiculous. I see this system here as being a way to go, because just in the maintenance that we have to deal with on our existing system, and that would be one thing if the system was adequate in removing the grit and everything, but, you know, I know the grit chambers, get in there and clean them once a month. You probably need to go in there more than that.
I agree.
Probably every 2 weeks to keep the grit buildup, but then you turn around and you're getting grit buildup in the biolac, and that's the backbone of our treatment system. And you know, we can't have you going in there and having to taking shovels and stuff like that to clean them out, and then we're replacing liners. And you're saying that this grit system here, we won't have to get in and do any cleaning in our biolac for 10 or 12 years. And what type of cleaning are you talking about in 10 or 12 years' time? Are you talking about just a small amount of buildup that could be easily removed with a vacuum, vacuum truck? And or is it going to be a significant amount of buildup after 10 or 12 years?
In the 10 to 12 years, you can expect up to a foot of grit at the bottom of the system. However, because it's very fine grit, there's a good possibility that your aeration inside there will simply allow it to continue moving onward, so it simply gets sent out through your sludge. We actually have quite a few customers that have found little to no grit afterward, even though there is an expected amount that does make it true. It's not perfect. Right?
But you're saying 10 to 12, so let's say, you know, we're looking at 1 to 2 years of going in there and having a huge amount of grit, and we can't keep our system down that long, but let's say if you set up a maintenance schedule to go in every 5 years and drain it, then you're potentially looking at maybe 6 inches on the floor that can be easily, cleaned up fairly rapidly without guys in there digging with shovels. You just, because fine grit, it's not going to be too heavy, and it can be done in a different way to where it's a little more less risky to the liner and things like that.
I'd like to say we ran the plant for 4 years. And to give you an idea, we ran it for 4 years, drained it, took it offline. There was over 4 foot vertical in all 4 of the corners.
I think this system will pay for itself fairly rapidly.
I'd like to add that the distinction with your current grit system, this is for nominal size grit. And what we're proposing is a fine grit removal system.
Mm-hmm.
So with your current system, as grit's going through, you're going to have an accumulation. By removing that, like Eric has indicated, now fragments of fine grit passing through will likely stay in suspension and pass through and get removed at the clarifier. And then that will come out.
So you won't be cleaning the biolac.
So it's possible that you'll drain the biolac and you'll realize there's nothing in there.
There's nothing in there.
Right.
And that's the way it should be.
Right. So this is a twofold solution because one, the hydraulic limitations that you can't get with the current system, we'll be able to address that with the new system. So you satisfy that hydraulically. Second, you're eliminating now the smaller gradations in those cables that he showed that your current system just is not capable of getting out right now.
Yeah, and that's where I'm looking at the justification on this is that our current system that we have needs to be modified to handle our flow because they can't handle our current flow. And even being modified, it still isn't going to remove the grit necessary, the fine grit, to get it out of there. And so you're still going to get build up in your biolac and everything else. And with the grit chamber that you don't have to go in and, because I noticed you have a grit removal screw conveyor on this. So essentially inside of your grit chamber there, probably very little, is there really any maintenance to go in there to clean grit out of that, or is that pretty much everything is funneled out to the conveyor system?
Everything is funneled out through the bottom. You can see a pipe down there at the bottom of that. That pipe will be the pipe that goes over to the spiral classifier. As everything gets funneled to the bottom, there's pretty much everything gets pulled out, but every time that the valve opens, it dumps it out.
So this system here, basically, you don't have any monthly cleaning. You don't have motors that you have to replace the seals on and the electricity for those motors. Here, the only maintenance I see on this is on your screw conveyor, which is probably stainless steel.
Correct.
So that's going to be very little wear and tear on your stainless in there. So what would you say, Brian, about every, you're going to have bearings in there. They're going to have to be greased and maybe replaced from time to time. But the only thing that you'd have to replace on that would be probably your screw conveyor or your screw, and maybe every 10 years, 15 years, you might have to replace the screw.
I'll put it on a 10-year schedule just to be safe, and you monitor it for every year after that. It's really needed.
So I'm looking at very low maintenance, and you're getting an efficient system that will do something that our current system, even being modified, will not be able to do. Okay.
I have 2 other questions I want to bring up. I'll keep it short. One is for Brian. First off, I can assure you that me and Mr. President beat these 2 gentlemen with sticks trying to find the flaw in the system. Brian, could you speak just for a moment of the damage grit entering the biolac, grit the size that we have, can damage
diffuser assembly, biolax sleeves.
Sure. So what we attempt to look at any utility that's operating a wastewater plant is what are kind of the O&M problems, and if there is something that triggers more frequency related to O&M, attention or replacement or repair. So what we're finding in utilities, no different than what's at Rosemont, is the diffuser, that's a membrane sheet, and that's what gives the fine bubbles for the biological process to take place. That, on average, should last anywhere from 3 to 5 years, depending on use. Sometimes you can get it longer. But we're seeing utilities where the life is maybe only a year to 2 years. And we're starting to connect problem related to fine grit, just like the analogy that Eric described, just taking sandpaper and it's just wearing it down. So essentially, if it's known that there's a fine grit problem, you are taking into account that there's going to be accelerated wear and tear, any component downstream. The first line of the first process in the line downstream of grit would be your membrane diffusers, and that would create more of a frequency on replacement. But then anything even further downstream, this is an activated sludge line, so you have a pump that's going to return solids back to the plant, and that could have the impeller wear and tear due to the fine grit.
Any moving parts.
Any moving parts.
My final question is a two-part. He already stated it, but just so could you tell me, one, is this something that we have to dig down, find utilities, things of that nature, or can this be put above ground or below ground? And second, could you give me a quick operational explanation of how the system in a whole works? Yes. So first question, it can be installed above ground, it can be installed below ground, it can be actually installed elevated above the ground also. So it's extremely flexible as far as the installation location where it can go. That one depends on where your current existing piping is and how much pressure you have available on the pumps to be able to get the flow through the system. My expectation is that the inlet pipe for the new system will likely line up with the existing inlet pipe for your existing system, which arrives on the far side, just basically ground up. That's my expectation. Overall operation of the system. Okay? Water flows into the grit chamber, the grit team. The water flows, as it flows into the chamber, it flows in on the tangents on the outside. It rotates around the outside. As it rotates around the outside, the grit gets pushed toward the outer wall of the chamber. When it gets pushed toward the outer wall of the chamber, it'll come down to the bottom slope. But any of the grit that is captured at that point will be dropped on the bottom slope. The bottom slope comes down, drops it down to the grit pot down at the bottom of it, which then gets sucked out and removed. Any grit that hasn't been removed at that point, the water will continue to rotate as it slowly works its way inward toward the central discharge. The discharge pipe, you can't see it well in the picture here, but the discharge pipe actually comes from the center of the unit. So as the water works its way from outside towards inside, it works its way up another inverted cone on the inside of there, and that inverted cone and the center column are other settling points for that water, for the grit to be able to be captured up against the walls where it gets settled down and drops out the bottom. The de-gritted effluent comes out the effluent pipe up there at the top, the 30-inch pipe, no propagating whatever flow rates you need to be able to get out that stuff right there. Out the bottom. The grit screw will come out the bottom through that pipe that's down there at the bottom. You have enough elevation in there that you're not going to need to pump. Simply open up the valve. We'll actually put a 3-inch line on there, and we'll size that 3-inch line to handle 75, 100 gallons per minute of grit slurry coming through. 75 to 100 gallons per minute, because that puts you in about 5 to 7 feet per second. 5 to 7 feet per second is enough velocity that your grit comes out, and it doesn't settle inside the pipe. So it settles down at the bottom there. There's one other item down here at the bottom, that is a fluidizing ring. That will require a little bit of fresh water to come inside here. That's just your known bottle of goes on for about 2 minutes before the valve opens and then runs while the valve's open. Usually, that is removed once per hour on about 5 minutes per hour cycle. Not a lot of water usage there. Water comes out through the pipe, enters into the top flange on the classifier. When it enters into that classifier, the water coming into the grit slurry coming into the classifier, grit settles down to the bottom. At the back end of the classifier, there's a weir where the water flows up over the top, your grit settles down to the bottom. Your degraded effluent will come out of the bottom of that and simply return the same direction that it currently goes. You'll be able to utilize your same piping that you have there for the classifier. Right? Same discharge piping you have there. Grit will settle down to the bottom, and then at the bottom of it, there's an auger. The spiral auger system captures the grit, runs it up through the top, and dumps it out over the discharge. All the equipment in here is adjustable. Everything is adjustable by the operators at the plant. There is no need to call Hydro International and ask permission. But please, if you are going to adjust it and you're not familiar with what you do, please do call up the local service guy located out of Salt Lake City, Utah. Call him up and ask him how to do it. There's no charge for a service call of, hey, how do I adjust this? Here's what I'm seeing. What number should I put in? What should I change in there? It's all extremely easy and extremely simple to go through and to go through and put back in there. I don't remember if we were looking at a PLC that can feed back to Plant Canada. I believe we were, right, so that everything could be monitored remotely. But everything can still be adjusted at the panel, again, by the operator.
Ryan, is Ski hooked up to that clarifier now? Okay. Would be,
So when it floods, you have no idea.
I got a question here, and I know that's a 10-foot diameter hole, and what I'm looking at there is how deep is that?
Well, I have to pull up a drawing for that one. It's approximately 14 feet deep on the 10-foot diameter.
Okay, so
I'm not exactly certain on that number. It's roughly there. It's actually pretty close to the same depth of your existing unit, about 2 feet deeper.
okay, so this one I'm trying to look at on our pump. Do we have enough lift to feed an above ground installation, or is it the pump iffy on that?
Depending on where you locate it, because right now it's lifting it clear to
The plant feeding this unit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we could go ahead
And
and
this plugs in the bottom. It does cover the bottom, so this unit would basically, we would demolish and remove the existing. This unit would sit exactly in place. Currently, we lift from our headworks pumps vertically about 27 feet, then up to the slab where the grit removal system is. The influence of the plant will come in the bottom. This will sit basically ground level and be pumped up into the tank.
Would that hook up to where that pipe is on the south side of the chamber? And that's the one that you saw.
right. What I'm trying to get at is that I know that a significant amount of cost on this is going to be the demolition and construction, to put this below ground. And where if it's possible that you could mount this above ground by just pouring a slab and piping over to it, that would reduce, you can just abandon the old grid chambers, not to worry about it, but put this system in. Now, my question is do we have the capability with our Vector, if it's 14 foot deep, how big is that unit? About 10 foot?
Which unit?
The in-ground tank there.
The grit tank?
Yeah.
10 foot diameter, I have to look and verify the depth, but it's about 14 foot deep, yeah. 6 up above ground, about 14 feet.
Okay, so to be able to, the vac will reach that height? Okay. So we could still get in there and do our cleaning and maintenance if it's mounted above ground.
And that's the option we spoke, Aaron about is above ground. Now when I say demolish and remove the old one, I threw that out there because that's what I wanted. Eric, we talked about, by all means, you can leave it there, and we can build around it. But we don't have a whole lot of real estate there, and but that is an option as well.
Because see, my concern is that it's money, and we need this unit, we need this system in there for the good of our plant. And I know that the cost of dimming out that old grit chamber and then putting a below ground installation is probably going to be almost nearly as much as the Grit King itself, just in the construction costs. And if we can sit there and cut down our construction costs but get the same benefit of having the Grit King there, I think we're money ahead.
So what we took into consideration was, number one, have this unit above ground. Number two, due to the piping of the influent into the existing grit removal system and being able to utilize the effluent of the grit removal system, if you just remove that above ground structure that is there and remove it, it would pencil out that you're saving yourself on piping and moving around of an above ground system, going around the existing grit removal system and tying back into the existing effluent lines that are there. But we do plan on having this entirely above ground.
I would like to see, Steve, if we could get a cost. I mean, of course, you know, the cost of the unit is set, but I would like to see what we're looking at for an above-ground installation versus an in-ground installation. So I can see what kind of money we're talking about.
The initial discussion that we had when we were looking at the area was exactly that. Where would be the most efficient way for us to hook into the system, most economical, and those are the things that Eric and Brian were looking at with us out at the plant. So we have that in mind. I'm sure since you had a little bit more discussion, the low ground, I think, would be more costly. And if you look at that area, we've got a ton of pipes in there that we have to miss based on the new construction.
Yeah, and that's where what you're going to run into trying to dig an excavation that large. You know, the first picture you showed of the above ground unit, that's pretty much what it would look like. Go back one more.
Back one more?
That right there.
No, that's big.
But I know that's bigger than what ours would be, but it's essentially the same concept, right? An above ground installation with the Grit King, and then you got your classifier there right next to it.
No, without the legs. We put the Grit King on top of the berm, we have the classifier down below the berm where it currently sits. Okay. This is up on legs and raised off the ground. This is a raised system, if you will. Yeah. This in here would be mounted flush to the upper dirt level. Okay. Where the existing grid is. It wouldn't be on that existing pad lifted up in the air. This would be flush.
Okay, so we're looking at about 14 feet for the Grit King minus the legs. But that's basically an above ground installation. That's what I wanted to refer to. So another question too, Steve and Ryan, is how are we set up? Because you know we're going to be retrieving a lot of grit with this system. How are we for grit dewatering and storage? You know, until we're able to dispose of it to the landfill, because the landfills will not take it unless it's got a certain moisture content to it, and so it's going to have to sit in a drying bed somewhere until it gets to that maximum moisture content, and then we can take it to the landfill.
So I could have Eric speak of the dewatering of the classifier unit. And currently it is very similar to the one that we have. There's just optimized it. Like I said, our clarifier or classifier, when you refer to the classifier, we're speaking of this unit here. This unit down here. And this currently, our current collects 300 or greater, and this removes 300 or greater. You could say, hey, do we need your classifier? We already have one. We don't want yours. Here in the new system, you will collect 100 down to 100. But if we run it through our classifier, which is only capable of collecting 300, you're going to collect it here and give it right back. This is also a dewatering unit. So currently, our current process, we have one that dewaters it, but it won't collect what this will. Our current way is it goes into a dumpster and the landfill takes it as is. We do not store it. We do not hold it. It meets the requirements set by Waste Management for them to take it. It goes into a 3.5-yard dumpster that they come once a week to get it. And as far as the dewatering, this unit dewaters it. That's why we don't have to store it.
Okay, now, because we're going to go to 100, will one dumpster a week be able to handle that? Because if you're filling up one of those with the 300 or larger, and you go to the 100, you might be filling up 2 of those a week.
So, yeah. So what I can say is ours, we can hold it for a month without having them dump it. But they're already on site dumping our headworks trash, so you might as well take that one too. But when we go out there and see ours, that's all collected. There's not.
So where's it going? It's going into the clarifier, and it's going into your bioac. But it's not going to. Everything that's in your bioac is going to be going into that dumpster. So you're going to fill that thing up. I mean, he pointed out there, and 1 MGD, you're filling up the back of a pickup truck bed.
In an emergency.
In an emergency.
And if there were an emergency event that lasted 1 million gallons, then
I'm not sure you offload.
Right. But the whole idea of this is that all the grit that's currently going into our bioac is going to be collected and go into a dumpster. And I can almost guarantee you fill that dumpster up once a week.
There's actually an interesting bit. If you look at your dumpster currently, which I looked at inside there, you'll see a lot of that is there's a lot of corn, a lot of yellow, there's a lot of brown, which the brown is typically rice, some coffee shells, egg shells, oyster shells, things like that. One piece that I didn't mention about the Grit King, I didn't know how far he wanted to get in there, so I could talk loads more about it. The Grit King itself, because of the rotation of the liquid that comes in here, and this minimum flow rate, the 2.19 MGD, if we are over 1/4 that 2.9, so over 0.55 MGD, which is roughly 400 gallons per minute. If you're over 400 gallons per minute, the Grit King actually does washing of the grit itself, which means it removes those corn, it removes the eggshells, it removes the rice, sends that out downstream because that's beneficial to the system. So you'll look inside your dumpster and you may look and say, well, I'm getting about twice the amount of grit as what I was. I was expecting 3 to 4 times as much. What you'll find is that the grit that you're capturing is more sand and the non-digestible items. Whereas the digestible items are going to be continuing moving downstream. So yes, your dumpster will fill up faster, but I don't think you're going to have to worry about filling up an entire dumpster a week. Do you remember back there it was about 1.5 buckets per million gallons? You're getting 1.3 per day. This is just off the cuff. Roughly 8 million gallons per week. 8 million gallons times 5 buckets gives you about 40 gallons of grit inside the 45 gallons of grit inside the dumpster. Which 45 gallons of grit, imagine a 50-gallon bucket that you dump inside the dumpster, you'll be about a half yard to a yard per week, roughly. Okay. It's rough numbers. Right? That's what's expected.
And how often are your screenings being picked up? Once a week?
once a week. Honestly, Eric looked in there and you'll look in there, and after a week, you may have a small pile. It doesn't even reach to the size of the dumpster.
You're just having it picked up so it doesn't accumulate over the side.
Of the dumpster?
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't make it.
I realize that, but you're having it done that frequent, so it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I did take away some time. I understand this is a very, money is important to all of us, and it's never in the bank account. My takeaways from this is, number one, hydraulically, it's a must-have.
One of the things I might say right now, before we ever even consider any of the finance, we need to figure out what we're going to do, get a proposal, discuss it, hash it out, and determine what the best course is to take, and then bring it back and have that discussion before the more technical and fiscal discussion. This was designed for the concept of what we're looking at, so the board would have a heads up before we go into budget next year to start preparing all of the engineering, all of the design work, everything that has to be done in a proposal, so we can bring that back to the board. I think that's a...
Dave.
Yes.
Hey, this is Director Webb. I was liking the presentation, but I think what we did for the community that's listening, we blew them out of the water. And I think that what we just need to decide is that how we're going to go about trying to get this done, because we became way too technical for the community side of it. And I know that the engineering committee may be liking that part of it, but we just need to know if it's a good thing, bad thing. And I would defer my thought on that to either Director Stewart or Director Wood, but we're not trying to figure it out now. We're trying to figure out feasibility, possibility. And the community, if they're listening, we just lost their attention completely, because at some point it became way, way too technical with just 3 people. So I would hope that we look at it from the community side of it. Since they're on there listening, people probably start popping out. They're not listening anymore. Let's see what we're going to do, what kind of timeline we need to get it done in. Let's kind of get back to that and kind of leave the technical part there. You can come back to it, but I was listening to it, and I wasn't being enthusiastic to board.
Well, I think at this point, what it was designed to do tonight was a presentation before the board for a heads up. And although the community is listening, there's going to be a point in time when we bring this back to have that discussion for the benefit of the community and put it into a more proper full-length discussion. Grit in a system and what it does to the system is certainly one of our big concerns based on our maintenance, our continued maintenance, our cost, everything else. And this is part and parcel of why we have our rates doing the things they do, because we have to find the solutions to fix items that we're losing money on in the long run. It isn't just today, how much are you spending today, but what are you going to spend in the long run by not doing something of this nature? And I agree. The technicalities that here were, the MGDs and the acronyms that are being used really aren't conducive for a lot of the public. And I think that we can address that at another meeting. And we'll have another meeting in regard to this, no doubt.
Hey, Steve, the point you hit that I would love to have been expanded upon, the community always talks about rates. This is the reason we have the rates for things that come up like this here. We already know, based on the presentation, what Director Webb said, it's going to increase the efficiency. It saves us money. But if you don't have the money to get the efficiency, you're back to zero. But like I said, I think the community needs to understand that when we look at these things, we understand the region, we talk the technical part of it, but we have to have something that's going to enhance the plant and save us money long term, that saves the community, the ratepayers money long term. That's what I was hoping to hear, and I never got it. We just kept talking technical, and the more we talk technical, the rest of the community is engaged, and we sit up here, and I would have said, okay, so what's in it for me? We're just talking technical part, so I would like, but the presentation I liked, but at some point it became a 2-on-2 show, and they're talking to one another, and everybody else is out there looking.
Okay, it'll basically, doing this system will optimize our biological treatment of the plant, which in the long run will keep us from spending money that we don't want to spend, because if the biological treatment goes upside down based on what we were talking about, grid accumulation and wearing out of various pumps and motors and stuff, and they break down, and we have a situation like that, it could cost us severely. So you're right. It is more technical, but there's a lot to it at the same time. And in this presentation, I purposely told them to keep it to a smaller, compact, concise presentation rather than a long, drawn-out presentation. And that's part my fault. But I think we can address that for the public before we spend the money. Let us do the research. Let us take a look at what it's going to cost and how effective it will be. And then we can come back and talk dollars and cents and how it will aid the community in saving dollars rather than throwing money away.
I think the general direction is to move forward with this idea. I have two questions. Neither one are technical. They're more information. The problem that grit causes has become more and more aware over the years. Is that basically true? And now you're really seeing that you're trying to really fine-tune stuff to save money. And grit is a major problem.
Correct. I believe what you're seeing is that your grid is a major problem in not just wear, but also your decreased capacity, right? And when it fills everything up, you can't maintain your biological treatment. If you can't maintain your biological treatment and your bugs start to die off, that costs the city dearly.
Yeah.
Not only that, but as they start to die, you increase blowers. Blowers are extremely expensive, use tons of electricity. So as your grid fills up, you just turn up the electricity bill.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to pay more and more and more electricity to run pumps that are inefficient and blowers that aren't being able to blow through because the grid is that dead.
So
whereas if the grid weren't in the system runs more efficiently and costs less per month to run.
So more efficient removal of the grid is what we're looking at. My second information question, I'm drawing a blank on the fellow's name. He was the engineer that oversaw the whole program and, kind of helped him along with the fellow's name.
What was his name, Greg, from KJ?
We kept him on as a consultant. Yeah, Popacek. Yeah,
Mike Popacek.
Yeah, Popacek. Did he at any time say, your grid system here is not the best?
He acknowledged it.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering.
You know what? And one of the things that I didn't, we touched on briefly in the presentation, or Eric and Brian did, was the power consumption. That it will reduce the power consumption by preventing the buildup of the grid on the diffusers. And the one thing that I didn't mention also is we have a solar field out there to mitigate the power consumption of that new plant. And it's a 1 megawatt solar field. and we don't want to be wasting that power that we're generating to the plant by not taking and being as efficient as we can.
So I'm fine with moving forward to directing this issue and trying to find a economical solution and to solve a potential problem that will happen in the future.
Thank you.
And is there anything else anyone else wants to add?
Yeah, I just sitting here thinking that budget time is quite a ways off still. About 8 months before we finalize the budget. And then after that, then you got to award the contract and then the construction and everything else. So we're looking at possibly 10, 11 months before this system can be put into place. And in the meantime, I'm worried about, we have a very inefficient system. Not only is it inefficient, it's too small to handle our capacity. Is there a possible way that we could set up a temporary flow equalization to where we can keep that grid chamber from being overloaded during peak hours and just keep it at a certain flow 24/7 by using a flow equalization, and then maybe, go in there and clean the grid chamber out once a week or every 2 weeks if necessary to reduce any kind of a buildup in our biolac until we can get this system put into play?
Short answer, yes. Mr. President, I have already thoroughly worked through it, and we have a plan of what we are going to do. He spoke to it earlier, and yes, we have a plan that will work to mitigate the input flow being fed to the store.
The equalization chamber that we have discussed is a cost item also, a major cost. So we're kind of
it's not a good scenario no matter how you look at it. I understand that. And I was just trying to think of ways to where, because, this is something that we could put into play in the next 3 or 4 months, but I'm more worried because you said that you guys...
I was more speaking to, once our nitrates are below state levels of 10, we will turn the plant down to where we're only feeding it 600 GPM. All the other flow exceeding 600 GPM will be sent to the new built emergency overflow basin that we currently have. At night, between 1 a.m. and 7 to 8 p.m., we experience low flow. At those times, the water that was sent to the emergency overflow basin during the day will be drained back at night to keep the pump steady feeding 600 GPM.
Okay.
And that is my plan. That's what I was referring to.
and I want to be able to do that as short a time period as possible.
Okay.
So that is going to require us in the budget. Once the budget is done, we'll start preparing to make sure that we got, after the fiscal year, people started on this project. This project won't take that long to put in. But as soon as we can.
Right.
Because I want to get off of putting it out there for very long.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And, the other option that we talked about before of putting in an overflow pipe, it's a doable deal, but it's not ideal. You're not really solving anything.
Right.
Brian, I like your short answer. Yeah.
I tried to keep it short. But,
Yes. and I make the suggestion we move on.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
All right. Director's reports, comments, future agenda items. Director Wood.
I have nothing. come set it up.
Thank you. Director Wallace.
Y'all let me
Director next to me.
I just wanted to tell everybody, or say, just mention people that are on the phone that hear us talking. You can hear that people are passionate and they have the community's best interest at heart. That last thing, to simplify it, the best way I could ever say to simplify it, you'll save money by not changing oil on your car initially. But in the long run, it's not saving you money at all. So,
You save money, don't drive it. But then when you do drive it, you have to repair everything.
And nobody puts a spoonful of sand when they're changing their oil into their motor. That's basically what this is.
Director Webb.
Hey guys, good evening. I apologize for not being present. Two things. First of all, about the presentation. Steve, if you could see that they email me a copy of the presentation, because I'd like to look at it. That's number one. Number two, I think Dan brought up a good point. The reason we get passionate or excited about things because Greg made mention of it, how the efficiency of it, and I always defer to you, Ben, or Greg, because that's what you guys know. That's your wheelhouse, for lack of a better term there. But the other part about it, too, let's just keep ourselves mindful that we know we have a better insight than a lot of people do. And sometimes we can't paint that visual picture. We got to get to the point where they can have a picture. Steve, what you brought up about the rates, that's probably prime time, because that's the thing we get hammered on about all the time, about being wasteful or taking a, why do we need the rates? Well, for an example, you have to do something like this. So, like I said, Greg, Ben, you guys are my subject matter experts on this, and I trust that you guys, the engineering or sewer committee, you guys bring out the best information, you provide Steve with the insight to it, and we move forward. Another thing that I'd like to make these other directors in the community aware of, our conservation, the conservation portion on our website, the State Water Resource Board has a link to it, and people that look at the State Water Resource Board, they get a link to the Roseman Phase Water website. And if you have not looked at it, it's a lot of good information on that, and I encourage the community to look at it. What I would hope moving forward is that we can come up with a way that we can get away from our dirt gardens and start putting down native plant material, something that brings a little bit more color to the community, because we know about the fact we've done a really good job with the conservation part, but I think there's enough room with our conservation that we can add native plant material, and there's resources within Normal Valley that can help us do that. That's our website, so we can get away from a lot of these just dirt patches. But anyway, I did enjoy the presentation. I'd like to see, the slideshow that you gentlemen have. And thank you guys very much.
My director's comment kind of ties into what Rick just said, and it ties into what we've just done tonight. Our special meeting to understand the Willow Rock Energy Storage Center was very informative, just like this meeting was very informative. Many good questions were asked, and there will be future opportunities for the board to stay informed. As Rcsd was involved on the cutting edge of water banking, reclaimed water, and now energy storage in the sphere of our influence. And I think that our water conservation and water efficiency that you were just speaking to, Rick, may be funded, just like Rio Tinto funded us, by rock energy storage. So we'll keep on that, Rick.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
All right. General Counsel update. John?
Since I cannot possibly compete with the Grit King, I'll just say nothing tonight.
You just listen to all that we've been saying, and you're going to sit there and say nothing. How are you doing?
I don't think I can add. I can't add anything. I am doing just great. How are you guys? Sounds like you guys are having fun.
Thank you. Fun. General Manager.
Yeah, we're having fun after the election. Got a bunch of smiles on the board, I'll tell you that. Anyway, no, I don't have anything, but that we're getting closer and closer to the holiday season. People will be out shopping. Please be careful, and look forward to spending time with your families.
And Vice President Brennan, before you close, can I just make one quick comment, please? I just want to tell the board, thank you guys.
You've got 42 words. You have 42 words.
Okay. Thank you, board, because one of the things I do appreciate is that we push one another to stay current on the information. I appreciate that. And as Steve mentioned the election, I want to tell the community thank you very much. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Rick. Public Works update is John.
Nope, we don't have an update.
Okay. And Director of Administration, this is probably the first time I've come through the door and not found you.
Conferences are going on right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually on the phone. I've been listening in. Can you guys hear me okay?
What are you doing on the phone? You're
Hello,
supposed to be at a conference.
Well, you know what? I got out of my conference. I've been in school. I've attended 8 classes in the last 3 days at the TSBA Board Secretary / Clerk Conference and certification process. So, kind of brain overload. I have a lot more questions than I have answers right now. I've got my work cut out for me to find out those answers and come up with a plan if I find any deficiencies. Lots of great topics that were discussed, including understanding fundamental special district laws, ADA compliance and transparency, the Public Records Act, understanding board member and district liability issues, among others. So lots and lots of great information that was given out. They really know how to do a conference well. So I was very happy that I was able to attend.
Sherry, was there anything on how to deal with board members?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And we all have to remember what our roles are. They made that very clear. The role of the board, the role of the GM, the role of the district admin and board secretary and so forth. So, yeah, I got you guys all figured out, so we're good.
You will update all of us when you get back, right, what our roles are?
I will, yeah.
Drive safely. Where are you actually at?
Monterey.
Monterey. Okay. Definitely drive safely. Has it been wet up there?
Yeah, the last 2 days we've had lots of rain, which is great. But I was fortunate enough to stay in the same hotel where the conference is or was, and that I had to drive. And
well, good. Good to hear from you. Anybody else have anything for the good of the cause? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn then.
So moved, Director Stewart.
And I need a second.
Second, Director Wood.
Roll call.